Alright, may the yap session commence. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another speed paint. Today I finally have another update on my short film so far. The script is done, the animation is done, I'm getting started on the final voice lines. I have designed 2 out of the 3 animated characters, and I have the model for the car done. The short film is going to have a total of 4 characters, though you'll have to wait until it airs to see the 3rd animated one. Because I'm doing all the visual stuff, I have to kind of do a different pipeline than I normally have in animation. I'll get into that later when we go over the 3D modeling part, but for now we are jumping right into the new character sheet. Alright, so this sheet is for Colt. It is a full turnaround. Colt is the other main character for the film outside of Fawn, and is actually going to be voiced by my boyfriend, T-Boy, who I'm sure you have heard about here a lot. Since we are voicing the 2 main characters, him and I actually decided to base them slightly off of us. Colt is heavily inspired by my boyfriend in attitude and speech style, and is also meant to contrast Fawn's more energetic and bold personality. Since Fawn has a warmer, earthier, and darker palette, I tried to give Colt one with a lighter and cooler color palette, except for the hair, which I made an orange to contrast the rest of the design and add some pop to his face. I'm sure a lot of you noticed the autism creature on his shirt. My boyfriend wears a lot of Kirby stuff, but I wanted to use a non-copyrighted character. The bulk of the short film alternates between shots of Colt in his dorm and Fawn in her car, so I gave both of them distinctive silhouettes but easier to animate designs, and the designs are also meant to blend in and work well with the backgrounds that I'll be making soon. The setting is actually based around the college we both went to and he's still going to, UW Stout. I majored in animation there and I just graduated. There's a joke in the short film about the deer being weirdly friendly, and honestly, that is actually true. I have been followed and even stalked by deer multiple times. That is likely more due to the region and friendly college students feeding the deer, which you frankly shouldn't do, by the way. It is all fun and games until a deer charges you when you're trying to get back to your car in the middle of winter. In the middle of the night. No, I'm not talking from personal experience, why would you ask? Anyways, the programs I'm using for any 2D stuff that isn't animated, I'm using Clip Studio Paint and Procreate. Making the character sheet this time around was actually pretty easy. I could trace the proportions from Fawn's sheet and then adjust them accordingly to Colt. I wanted to make him kind of taller and leaner, so a silhouette could contrast with Fawn more, and for me, honestly, this stuff always feels easier the second time around, and for both of them, I tried to kind of lighten my pen pressure on the lines. I feel like I'm pretty heavy-handed, so I'm trying to go for a slightly thinner line style than most of my usual work. And now, onto my 3D modeling. I took a few classes on 3D modeling in college, mostly in Maya and a few other programs like Unreal and the Adobe Suite. Expect a video covering some of those projects in the future, but I've never truly felt all that confident in my skills, and the short film projects I've worked on have always been with a larger team. Before college, I really considered myself a 2D artist and didn't really like 3D that much. I liked what it could do, but it never seemed all that appealing with me to work with compared to 2D. Once I started working with it and I saw what it could really do, I started to fall in love with it more. But even then, I never really felt all that confident in my skills. For the past month or so, I've been kind of bouncing around through different tutorials and then I finally decided, screw it. I am wasting time on these because I am scared to fail or make something bad. I don't need to be perfect. I need to fail, and at this point, I need to fail faster. So I just decided to get started. I jumped in and I made a point to only use tutorials if I really felt stuck, and a friend of mine from college sent me a roadmap document that he'd been using to learn Blender, so that was really able to help me get off the ground. A little background behind this, pun not intended. In mixed media animation, think your Gumball, your smiling friends, Spider-Verse. Elements like the background and character animation need to be done separately and are most of the time even done in separate programs. They're combined at the compositing stage, which may feel boring to do, but in my experience is typically where the magic happens that makes your stuff look really cool. In projects with teams, production on the background starts while elements like the story, voice acting, and animatics are underway with separate team members. And then the animators can get right to work once the story is set up. But since I'm a one-man team, the process needs to be slowed down and spread out a bit, so I need to finish the background before I do any fun stuff. Note, I really do consider the hand-drawn animation process fun. To any 3D animators and artists watching this, you may be thinking, this idiot has no idea what they're doing. And you're right, I don't. I'm honestly kind of just making this up as I go, but I am using experience from my college classes to do it. Honestly, I hated working on UVs in college, but honestly, they made it so easy for me to do this now, because I could just unwrap my 3D model into a 2D image and then straight up paint on the texture in Clip Studio Paint. Keep in mind that UVs are a more advanced step in 3D modeling and are generally not recommended for beginners. Even I'm not all too confident in Blender, but I still have 3 years of experience in Autodesk Maya, and I have used Blender before, so I'm not going in completely blind. And frankly, I need to stop pretending I'm a beginner and stop learning and start doing, or all of my dream projects are just gonna stay dreams. And another thing I'm gonna note about this is that I am making these backgrounds to be viewed from a specific angle. A massive difference in the animation between games and movies is that 3D models in animation and games are typically meant to be viewed in a 3D space, while movies kind of get to fudge the details as long as it looks good from an intended angle. Seriously, if you ever want to laugh, look up cheating the camera in 3D, because animators really only make it look good if you're going to see it. So I'm going to build up other 3D elements off of a rough sketch in the scene so it can look really good from those angles without being too resource intensive. I actually learned about this technique from a few YouTube tutorials, and I will link a bunch of them below if you're just interested in learning, but for me, the best way to learn is to do. I'm hoping to ultimately finish off the 3D stuff by the 20th of September, because if this film is going to be made, I really need to lock in and get onto the animation. An important thing for me to remember is that failure is okay, and an imperfect yet finished project is already going to be leagues better than one that never existed at all because I was too scared to start. If you're still here after all that yapping, thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video. Like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to stick around for more. I'll be back again next Friday with some fan art for Weapons, which I recently saw in theaters, and I am super excited to talk about. If you want to check out more of my stuff, or are interested in commissions, or my socials, everything is linked below in the description. Finally, I'm gonna do that. Thank you for being here. Remember to stay creative, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Goodbye!